The Philadelphia Eagles are headed back to the Super Bowl for the second time in 3 years.
This flock of Eagles is heading to New Orleans
against the team that they started all against in the Philadelphia Eagles. After the most controversial penalty in Super Bowl history,
there's a flag at the 10.
Ended one of the most competitive championship games we've ever seen in the Chiefs' favor.
I don't know, Mike, listen. I think on this stage, I don't know, I think you let him play.
A call that will most likely not be talked about much leading into their Super Bowl rematch.
Why are you guys leaning into this whole ref thing?
But it was the only thing that anyone talked about after it happened.
Was it a hold? I guess.
I suppose.
I guess you could call this on every single fucking play, but in that moment, 35-35, fourth quarter of the Super Bowl, 1 minute, 48 seconds left. The refs pretty much decide the game. Don't love that.
Leaving the Eagles wondering what could have been.
Came at a win, came up short, so it's something that I know that'll motivate me.
But the Eagles would get their shot of redemption the following year when they met the Chiefs in Arrowhead during a much-anticipated Super Bowl rematch that saw the Eagles down 10 at halftime.
Right up the gut, touchdown Eagles!
Before an emotion-filled comeback saw the Eagles take the lead late in another game that was decided on a pivotal penalty late in the game. Only this time, it was against the Chiefs.
That ball did not make it back to the line of scrimmage.
As Patrick Mahomes would get called for an intentional grounding that would turn a makeable 3rd and 10 into a 4th and forever.
And the Eagles take over!
Ultimately ending the game in the Eagles' favor this time. In an emotional victory for their coach and their team. But this was not the Super Bowl.
And shut out Kansas City in the second half.
While the Chiefs would go on to win that later in the year.
Jackpot, Kansas City!
And the Philadelphia Eagles season would completely fall apart just a few games later. As the Eagles would become the first team in NFL history to start the season 10-1 before losing 6 out of their last 7 games. With 4 of those 7 losses coming by complete blowout. Which included an embarrassing loss to the New York Giants in Week 17 when they still had a chance to possibly win the division and have a home playoff game.
Second of the day for Saquon Barkley.
Before being eliminated once again by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the wild card round for the second time in 4 years. Completing an historic collapse for the worst final record of any team that started the year 10-1. And the issues were obvious to everybody that watched.
Another missed tackle. Oh my.
Oh my.
The tackling.
Practice and tackling every day is based off angles. When you see the angles of these guys and the way they approach tackling, it's crazy. But everybody's playing individual football.
Total disaster last night. Disaster. I mean, defense. People running free. No intensity. The tackling is horrible. Nobody hustling to the ball. Offense. No imagination. No leadership. Embarrassing that a team will just blitz you with the same blitz the whole game. And the quarterback and the offensive coordinator can't figure out how to combat it.
They were arguably the worst team in the NFL.
So in today's video, we're going to look at how the Philadelphia Eagles went from the league's biggest disaster.
How unexpected is this to go to the Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans?
To the Super Bowl in one of the greatest turnarounds in NFL history.
What is that?
As they are just 1 win away from the greatest revenge season of all time.
Do I think Saquon Barkley is the caliber of player to put a team over the top? I don't.
I'm going to shut him up.
Against the Kansas City Chiefs and everyone else who doubted them.
It's paid off to have what we have in front of us.
How unexpected is this for this team that you own to go to the Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans?
Well, it's kind of expected, I think.
Oh, okay, good.
You know
Expected.
Yeah.
But why is this such a surprise? As the Philadelphia Eagles have literally been the most dominant team in the National Football Conference in the 21st century since Jeffrey Lurie has been the owner, with accomplishments that include the most conference championship game appearances with 8 and the most Super Bowl appearances with 4. But nobody in the national media seems to notice, as they seem more preoccupied with displaying their failures more than anything. Starting with their head coach Nick Sirianni.
That is coaching malpractice. A coaches like, McVay, Andy, Reid, Shanahan, A coaches. They can lose a coordinator or a top assistant. You don't even notice. But if you're a C or a D or an F and you lose, let's say, Shane Steichen, which Nick Sirianni lost, you're utterly incompetent. You have no business being a head coach.
But I think he's a borderline lock. He will not be the coach next year.
As the national media and the fans who watched them thought that Nick Sirianni had lost the locker room.
Just one season after taking his team to the Super Bowl and almost winning it.
The Eagles fans were chanting, "Fire Nick!"
As the Philadelphia Eagles under Nick Sirianni would go on to finish the regular season at 14-3, which would normally get you into some Coach of the Year consideration, especially after an historic collapse. But instead, they would only talk about him after the losses.
This is bad coaching, and this is indicative of a team that finds ways to grab losses from the jaws of victory. Can we show you what they've been since week 15 last year? The rest of the league, you're up in the final 2 minutes, you win 90% of the time. The Eagles win 40% of the time. That's a coaching problem.
Even if he won, the narrative would be the same.
This guy just can't be the leader of an NFL team. You wouldn't let him be the leader of your car dealership. There have been 91 wins in the NFL this year. That win the Eagles just had, probably about the 88th best.
Completely ignoring the fact that he literally had one of the best winning percentages in NFL history, as he currently has the best win percentage amongst all active head coaches in the entire NFL and has the 5th highest win percentage in NFL history at the time of this recording. After the Eagles scored the most points in a championship game in NFL history with 55 to go on to his 2nd Super Bowl appearance in his first 4 years as an NFL head coach, which has only been done twice in NFL history by 2 Hall of Famers. So surely he's going to get his flowers now, right?
Had they blocked Jalen Carter, they being the Rams, on that 3rd down in round 2, I think it's possible he was fired 10 days ago. Now instead he's a game away from having the greatest start to a career any coach ever. I don't know what to make of it. Because every instinct I have says, well, this guy's just a doofus. The same.
And despite the fact that the Eagles had just signed a 5-year contract with a no-trade clause that made Jalen Hurts the highest paid player in NFL history,
Money is nice, championships are better.
the narrative from the media is that he wasn't that good either.
That guy might be a starter in this league. You know what I mean? Below average starter, but whatever.
No,
Jalen
I don't
Hurts
have Jalen Hurts as a top 10
You know
quarterback.
he was hurt last year.
Yeah, that's great. That's all good. All well and good. I don't have Jalen Hurts as a top 10 quarterback.
I respect a lot about Jalen Hurts, but I think Jalen Hurts is also like the most overrated player in football.
And that he was on the hot seat as well.
The godfather of Philly radio, Howard-esque. He needs to have a good year, or they're going to Carson Wentz him.
But the Philadelphia Eagles front office and GM Howie Roseman knew the talent that they had in both their starting quarterback Jalen Hurts and their head coach Nick Sirianni.
How about our quarterback? Your quarterback. He's a stud.
Choosing to build around them instead by bringing in more experienced coordinators on both the offensive and defensive side of the ball. Starting with the new offensive coordinator in Kellen Moore, who had 5 years of play calling experience as an offensive coordinator in the NFL compared to the 0 with the previous offensive coordinator Brian Johnson, finishing in the top 6 in yards and points per game more than half of the time, doing this 3 times in 5 seasons and finishing number 1 overall in either points or yards 3 times as well. And to help fix the defense, they brought in legendary coordinator Vic Fangio, who had 24 years of experience as both a defensive coordinator and even 3 years as a head coach, which included having a top 5 defense in yards or points allowed 6 times since he came back into the league in 2011. To take over for Sean Desai, only had 1 year of defensive coordinator experience before the Eagles made him their defensive coordinator in 2023. But despite the obvious improvement of both experience and talent, the narrative from the national media was the same.
He picked the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator, he being Howie Roseman, the GM.
If you really want to give Nick Sirianni a chance to prove that he's the guy, is let him go get his own guys. Let him fail. Let him fail.
As all indications from training camp were positive and pointing towards Jalen Hurts having another great year under the new offensive coordinator.
More proof Nick hates Philadelphia. I don't care. I know I'm right. 0 picks through 20 practices, too few.
Nick, I 100% agree with you.
Thank you.
But there was definitely bumps in the road considering he had to learn a new offense, and after a week 1 performance showed those bumps in a win in Brazil against a playoff team in the Green Bay Packers,
it's picked off.
You would have thought they lost the game.
And I know Eagles fans hang on my every word because they think I hate them so much. You come into the year hoping Jalen is going to get back to 2022 form. Looks nothing like it. Had 3 turnovers, could have had 5.
Yeah.
But I think the Eagles have massive concerns.
Concerns that were quickly put to bed when Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles would completely turn their season around after going into the bye week 2-2 after week 4, as Jalen Hurts would not lose another game that he started and finished for the rest of the season, winning 15 straight, with the team's only loss being when Jalen Hurts was knocked out of the game against the Washington Commanders with a concussion in the first quarter of week 16. As Jalen Hurts proved once again to be one of the most elite winning quarterbacks the NFL has ever seen by adding to his growing list of NFL records, including being the first quarterback in NFL history to have 3 separate win streaks of 9 games or more in his first 5 seasons, adding to his already impressive list of NFL records over the previous 3 seasons, including the NFL record for most consecutive wins against winning teams with 13, that broke the previous record of 12 held by Hall of Fame quarterback Peyton Manning. Hurts also has the NFL record for winning the most consecutive games when trailing by 10 or more points with 7, and that's the most by any quarterback since this statistic was first tracked in 1991, as he also tied the NFL record for most such comebacks in a row in a single season in 2023 before the season fell apart. And during the Philadelphia Eagles' 10-game win streak of 2024, Hurts led the entire NFL in almost every fourth quarter statistic, including completion rate with a 79.4, yards per attempt with an 11.6, and passer rating with 144.5, all first in the NFL, as he had as many touchdowns as incompletions in this entire 10-game stretch. A stretch that continued into the playoffs as Jalen Hurts set a new postseason NFL record for 7 straight games of at least 20 passing attempts without throwing an interception, passing Patrick Mahomes' previous record of 6, as Jalen Hurts hasn't thrown an interception in a postseason game since his first career playoff game, with his current postseason interception ratio currently ranking 6th best all time. And Jalen Hurts' impressive postseason performance would also see him become just the 8th quarterback in NFL history to go to multiple Super Bowls in their first 5 seasons, as all these other 7 quarterbacks are all Hall of Famers.
All he does is win!
But GM Howie Roseman wasn't done, as he would make the biggest splash in free agency with one of the best free agent signings in NFL history by bringing in a superstar player from the division rival New York Giants in running back Saqoun Barkley. Who probably had more to prove than anybody, considering he wasn't just facing doubters in the media.
This is not the team that should have been spending almost $13 million a year on a running back, but it sounds fun and it's exciting. So no, I don't like it.
They overspent.
Saquon Barkley to Philadelphia doesn't scare me one bit as a Cowboy fan. The difference between Barkley at this stage of his career and an average starter is small.
He was also facing doubters from his old team.
First of all, the Giants didn't even offer me.
Could we get something and trade him? What are we really going to get? Unless it got down to like $7 million. I don't want to offer that because I don't want to be like we disrespected him.
I'm going to have a tough time sleeping if Saquon goes to Philadelphia, I'll tell you that.
Former Giants running back Saquon Barkley has reached an agreement with the Philadelphia Eagles and has a maximum average per year salary of $15.8 million, which would be second highest for a running back in NFL history.
As Saquon would not only need to prove his worth, but the worth of the running back position itself to the entire NFL.
With the second pick in the 2018 NFL Draft, the New York Giants select Saquon Barkley, running back, Penn State.
A draft position that is almost unheard of in today's NFL. After 2 decades worth of rule changes designed to benefit the quarterback and receivers, turned it into a passing league, completely devaluing the running back position that was once the most important position in the NFL, as it became the second lowest paid position by average salary in the entire sport behind only kickers and punters at the time of this video, while also dropping the average position where running backs were drafted as well, as the NFL saw 32 running backs selected in the first round in the decade from 1990 to 2000, and then 32 once again in the decade from 2000 to 2010, but that number dropped all the way down to only 15 in the entire decade of 2010 to 2020, a trend that is expected to continue as there have only been 5 running backs taken in the first round since 2020 until now. But after running a 4.4 flat 40 time at 235 pounds and absolutely destroying the 2018 NFL Combine that saw Saquon Barkley score an almost perfect relative athletic score of 9.97 out of 10, he was viewed as such a generational can't-miss prospect that he was garnering pro comparisons to another running back that many think is the greatest in NFL history, in Barry Sanders himself. And the Giants would make him the highest a running back had been selected since Kajana Carter went first overall in 1995. And he did not disappoint, having success right away while on a bad New York football team by breaking several rookie NFL records, including most games with 100-plus yards from scrimmage, most 50-plus yard touchdowns, tying the miraculous all-time rookie season of Randy Moss, while also having the most receptions by a running back in his rookie season, on his way to Rookie of the Year as well as a Pro Bowl in his first season, as he would go on to earn 2 Pro Bowl selections with over 7,000 yards from scrimmage and 40 touchdowns in 6 seasons before being ranked the #1 free agent available in the 2024 offseason by NFL.com and signing with the Philadelphia Eagles to play behind one of the best offensive lines in football. And the rest is history, literally, as he would go on to have one of the greatest seasons a running back would ever have.
What is that?
Becoming only the 9th running back in NFL history to break the 2,000-yard mark and threatening the all-time single-season record of Eric Dickerson before electing to sit out the final game to rest for the playoffs with the other starters, as the Super Bowl was more important.
I got a bigger goal in mind anyway.
But even though he didn't get that record, he is almost assured to break the real record of rushing yards in a complete season, including the playoffs, held by Hall of Famer Terrell Davis, as Saquon Barkley has 2,447 rushing yards and only needs 30 yards in the Super Bowl to pass the record of 2,476. But he is also 53 yards away from becoming the first player ever to have 2,500 rushing yards in a season, including the playoffs, as he currently has 2,760 yards from scrimmage, both rushing and receiving, this season, which is second all-time for a single season, including playoffs, by only 2 yards behind Terrell Davis with 2,762. And with 1 game to play, he is almost guaranteed to accomplish all of them. He's also had the most explosive season a running back has ever had, with 7 touchdown runs of over 60-plus yards or more, which is a new NFL record, breaking the previous record of 4, as he had 4 such touchdown runs against the Los Angeles Rams in their 2 meetings alone. And he set the NFL record for combined 60-plus yard touchdowns, whether rushing or receiving, with 7, surpassing 2 more all-time greats in Jerry Rice and Jim Brown. And if he has a 100-yard-plus game in the Super Bowl, he will tie the NFL record for most 100-yard performances in a single season, with 14 shared by Barry Sanders and Terrell Davis once again. But Saquon would save his best performance for the playoffs, where he would run for 205 yards in the snow against the Rams in the divisional round, which is the 5th best playoff performance of all time, while also breaking the Eagles' single-game playoff rushing record of 196 set by Steve Van Buren in the 1949 championship game.
He's hit another home run!
Propelling the Eagles into the NFC Championship, only 1 game away from the Super Bowl.
I look at that Eagles team, and something is missing. 27-23, Commanders.
So, Commanders outright.
Commanders 35-34.
35-34.
So, like Coach, I'm going with the Commanders.
Wow. So Washington +6. They win outright, but I'll take the 6 points. Thank you very much.
Good to see the same familiar faces picking against the Eagles once again. But the Eagles would prove the doubters wrong one more time, only this time in historic fashion, as they would not only go on to win the game, but they would do so while breaking the record for most points scored in a conference championship game history with 55 points, while also doing something that had never been done in any NFL game before, becoming the only team to ever score 55 plus with 7 rushing touchdowns and 0 turnovers, while also passing and rushing for over 200 yards. As the Eagles have finished the game with the most rushing yards any team has ever had in a season in NFL history, with 3,731, and they still have 1 game to play. But despite all of this historic success,
how unexpected is this?
They're still not getting any respect. But that shouldn't surprise anybody, because we've seen this story before.
I'm going to take a second to talk to you about underdogs. When Doug Peterson was hired, he was rated as the worst coaching hire by a lot of freaking analysts out there in the media.
An awful year for coaching hired. Boy, there's a lot of not gonna work, and I'm almost dead sure of it. Nick Sirianni was hired as the Eagles coach.
Carson Wentz didn't go to a Division I school. Nick Foles don't got it.
Speaking of Philadelphia, what do you make of what's going on there and your thoughts on Jalen Hurts?
You know, I do my top 40 Chris Sims quarterback countdown list, and Jalen Hurts, he did not make my top 40.
Lord Clement's too slow. The airplane ain't got it anymore. Jay and John can't stay healthy.
Do I think Saquon Barkley is the caliber of player to put a team over the top? I don't.
Oh, hell, I can't fit the scheme. Michael Thomas can't fit the scheme. Nigel Bradham can't catch. Jalen Mills can't cover. It's the whole team.
What is the real reason why this team is constantly disrespected over the years, no matter what they accomplish?
You know who the biggest underdog is? It's y'all, Philadelphia.
As the Philadelphia Eagles fan base is consistently rated as one of the most hated fan bases in the entire NFL by anyone outside of Philadelphia. Because if you ask anyone who plays here,
the #1 team in sports with the greatest fans in the world, the Philadelphia Eagles, are happy. You know it.
Whether it's how we defend our turf,
Not even a Braves fan?
You're not?
So why do you have this on? So I'm not dealing with that shit.
or how we take over away stadiums.
Even though I have great seats at the bottom, I'm up here because I can't sit anywhere near my seats because everyone around me is Eagles fans. They're all cheering for the Eagles right now, so why would I want to stand there? I'd rather be over here.
I mean, goodness gracious. I'm starting to think we're not playing any away games.
Everyone also knows we're the most passionate fan base in the NFL, and that's really the reason that they hate us.
No one wanted us. No one liked this team. No analysts liked this team to win the Super Bowl, and nobody likes our fans. You know what I gotta say? To all those people that doubted us, to all those people that counted us out, and to everybody who said that we couldn't get it done, f*** you.